Welcome, Belma. Again, thank you so much for being here and giving me your precious time for this interview. I'm super excited to learn more about you, your work, and like your experience coming as a refugee and like how that uh, has a role in you, like doing the work you do today. So, to start off, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Yes, I'll start with the most current. I am assistant professor of education at Minnesota State University. I teach graduate in a graduate program, so I work with teachers who are obtaining their master's and their doctorate. And I teach curriculum and instruction with the emphasis on multicultural education and social justice, which the refugee part comes in. Prior to that, I have been involved in various different organizations, advocating for refugees. Whether it is, through sharing my personal story about having lived, having been through being a refugee, and or sharing what I've done professionally with supporting different organizations about how to approach working with refugees and being of service.
Well, that sounds so amazing. Like you do such a great work, and
Yeah.
you. I know that you are a refugee yourself, so may you tell me a little bit more about like your journey coming to America and the challenges you face getting up to where you are right now?
Okay. So without taking too much time, because this definitely could be a long story. I was a refugee. I was a child of war. At age 7, I escaped my home country of Bosnia um, during the war, and we originally ended up in Germany as refugees. At that time, Germany was not providing permanent stay, so my parents had to figure out, where we could move that would accept individuals to stay permanently. So we were looking for our permanent home, and so it was DUS. We went through a very lengthy vetting process, which took about 18 months, where we stayed in a third country. What I'm trying to say, we were staying in a country that was not of our origin. So we had anyway to go through the vetting process. So in 2000, I ended up moving to the United States at the age of 16, and I have been here since. So my work with refugees, mostly stems from my personal experiences, what I have gone through as an individual being in a foreign country. Also, learning to acculturate, learn the language, integrate into a new society. And also, I'm an advocate for refugees transitioning into higher education, also due to my personal experiences, having had experienced that. And it wasn't always a smooth sailing. So I'm hoping with my experiences and my research and work on refugees to hopefully make this a more smooth sailing for refugees who are currently bridging into higher education or are already currently in college.
Wow, that is amazing how like you started, from the like as a person coming to America, as a refugee and now like you're literally helping them. That's something I want to do too. I'm also a refugee. My parents were exiled from Bhutan, and we lived in Nepal, our homeland, for like a few years before the UNSCR gave us the opportunity to come to Chicago, like the United States. So, like, what I want to do with my life, it's very like similar to what you're doing right now. Like, I really want to work for like study refugees, and like I'm studying political science right now, but I really want to work focus on like helping my community refugees and like seeing them succeed as well. So you're literally my role model right here, and like the work you do, I really truly do admire it. So thank you so much for telling me about your life experience and the work you do right now.
Mm. Thank you. This is honoring. In fact, speaking of role models, in my dissertation that I wrote for my, my doctorate was about looking at refugee women, and I focused on Bosnian American women who came as refugees to the United States and the impact education had on their integration and self-sufficiency and overall life in the United States. So I do talk about the importance of being a role model, a leader, no matter what your field is, for example, whether it's political science, education, social studies, what have you. It is important to be that role model, or to have someone look at you and say, I can identify with this person, or look, there's something who either looks like me or has been through, experiences like me. If they can do it, I can do it. It's all about, enabling them and motivating them, and let them know that they can succeed too, because that's a lot what we refugees have embedded in our beliefs, is that I've talked to many people about this, and they say, well, I am a refugee, nobody expects me to go to college, or nobody expects me to succeed, so why would I do that? And I want to be there to empower individuals to say, look, you are just as great as everybody else, and if anything that we refugees have is the resilience and the hope, so that is in our advantage.
Yeah, I agree with the part where you talked about like refugees are not expected to go to higher education. And like I'm a first student, I'm not first student, I'm the first person from my family to attend college. So it holds such an importance, here. And like even my culture, where like girls usually don't go to colleges, they just like settle down right after turning an age of like, marriage. So it is like breaking a lot of barrier, like, challenges that was like mindsets from like back in the days where people used to think women are supposed to be home. And it is like, it's so cool to see how like other refugees role models, that I can look up to, be like, wow, we have similar life. And like the fact that you are in such a great position, and like, you came such a long way, it makes me want to like push myself forward and become like you. So it does really empower seeing other refugees succeed in higher education.
No, it's all a ripple effect, and that's, if you can change one person's outlook on how they view their life and what they want to do in their future, whether it's education or whatnot, is amazing. So
Yeah.
yes.
So I know that you mentioned you want to focus higher education for refugees. So can you tell me some of the things you're working on, or like some just like work you're doing right now that is towards that idea of like, having higher education for refugees?
Currently, what I am doing is I'm writing an article about refugee students and the struggle, day-to-day struggle in higher education. And I also write about my own experiences being a refugee student, where back in 2000, I moved to Boise, Idaho, and not the the term refugee was not as common as it is now, and especially in Idaho, schools were not prepared to work with individuals such as me. And I explained how I was getting pushed back and forth between offices or different staff. For example, when I had questions about a specific thing, I would be sent to the international student office. While I do represent something that you would consider an international student, I was actually a resident of. I was I was a resident of Boise, and I was not a student who just came to study in the U.S. and go back to my home country. I was actually, a resident of this country. So there were definitely different hiccups that, my university had to figure out how to work with, refugee students. And so what actually happened is this inspired me in a way due to my own personal experiences, inspired me to create something that would support other refugees. For example, rather than just running around trying to figure out how to get from A to B, it would be this place, if you will, that was created by refugee students, for refugee students, to support them in their, throughout their journey in higher education, whatever that may be, whether it's how do I enroll in a class, to how do I pay a parking ticket, where do I need to go to, apply for scholarship, if you will. A lot of refugee students simply do not know that there are scholarship opportunities out there. And so a lot of them, and it's always like in the hindsight where, a lot of refugee students say, oh my gosh, I did not know I could have gotten this free money or a scholarship for, what I have done to prove that, I am a great student. I have done all this. So, so anyway, that's what inspired me. And I ended up co-creating this student alliance called the Boise State Refugee Alliance at Boise State in 2014. Although, the focus was on refugee students, pretty much everybody was welcome to be there to support, whether it's being an ally to the students or someone who really actively wanted to go and, support the individuals who came to this organization to seek support. And so it catapulted from, just us supporting students within Boise State University all the way to, going into different high schools and talking to refugee students to empower them to bridge over into college. So it was mostly, it was usually me and another student who would go to, different high schools that had a majority of refugee students within that high school. And we would talk about the possibility of actually enrolling in college, which if you do research on what the desires of refugees are once they, come to the United States, is the dream of going to college. And so I felt that was important to address. So this is why we ended up going to different high schools and to empower students to bridge over.
Wow. Especially as someone who just finished high school and in a first year of college, I would say like the transition was very hectic and there's a lot that goes into it. And I came here when I was 9 years old. So I was able to like learn English by the time, last year where I was applying for college. I had a great support system, organizations like yours, who helped me find those scholarships and like made me see my true potential. Like they helped me do my applications and all, which is why like I'm currently attending a college and like without worrying about any financial need.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's such important because I know a lot of students who are refugees or immigrants that have so much potential, but because they didn't have the scholarship needed, they weren't able to go to like a college that they dreamed of because financial plays such a big role in like going to college. So
Absolutely.
I can definitely relate to that. But all on that note, I had like a different question that's kind of like relevant, but not really to this topic.
Mhm.
So when I first came to the US, right, the term refugee, like for me, it was something I'm still like, how do I say this? Like you're someone who've done a lot of work within refugees. You proudly identify yourself as one. Like I want to gain that confidence. Like I feel like whenever I say like I'm refugee, I feel like I'm gonna receive pity from people. Like think that they will look down upon me, like make me. It's just like has a negative connotation to that word. So
Mhm.
how do you when like how are you so confident like proudly stating that you're a refugee? It's just for me, at this time I feel like I don't want people to see me as weak or like
Yes.
because of the term refugee.
You're absolutely not weak. In fact, like I said, um, what we have that is very special from individuals who have not experienced what it means to be a refugee is that we have resilience. We carry resilience, and we carry hope, and those two are some. These two things are key to succeeding. And yes, I've been in your shoes, Anisha. I have been in your shoes, and I have radically chosen to identify myself as a refugee because of the fact of what you just explained, is because people tend to see it, and it has to do with how our society is viewing refugees. Media plays a huge part. And so we don't need anybody's pity. We need support. We need role models. We need leaders. And I have taken the crucial step of radically calling myself a refugee, although I mean for all these years I'm an American citizen now. But I want to be the role model for refugees. I want to change the frame. I gave a TED talk. I was invited to give a TED talk about reframing refugees. And so I want people to see me and say, wow, she is not what I had considered to be a refugee who, you know, all the negative things that people like to, that people may think when they hear the word refugees, or all the connotation that comes with the term. So I have taken my own example as, look, this is what a refugee could be also. And I have not done this on my own by any means. I had allies, I had supporters, I had individuals who deeply cared about me, who saw the worth in me when I didn't see worth in myself, especially as a high school student. I thought that after high school, I'm going to get a full-time job, and this is it. This is my life. This is, again, because we're looking at it from a scarcity point, or we are in a way told to feel from a scarcity perspective. So what I'm trying to do with my work, and with when I'm called to present or to give a talk, or just like what we're doing right now, is to also show and to call for action to start looking at refugees from a different perspective. We're not liabilities, we're assets. But what we need the a foundation, a healthy foundation, so we can have a springboard to succeed. And for me, being an educator, I can't talk for you know for different fields, but I can talk from the education standpoint. I feel, education brings so much. The more educated society we have, of course, the better. And so, and I also want to make that dream a realization for a lot of refugees, because as we all know, it's not just, a lot of our dream, but it's also our parents' dream, to go to college. And not everybody goes to college. And you know what? As an educator myself, I have said this is great because we all have different strengths. We all can make change. Whether it is going through higher education or not. But like I said, having the opportunity, knowing that there is an opportunity to go to college is what matters, because this gives us an opportunity to propel in whichever ways that we choose to, rather than thinking this door is closed indefinitely for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you put it so nicely. How like I shouldn't use, like, media has such a big impact on how people see refugee, and they don't tend to really show like the positive aspect of it. Um, but like that's something I struggled and I still do now, like proudly stating I'm refugee to like people, because I feel like they're gonna judge me, they're gonna like like see me as like an outcast. But I should really use this as like an opportunity to like tell them, yes, I am a refugee and this is what I can do, and these are what I have done. So to show them that not like refugees are not just someone to pity, they are strong, resilient people who can do what they want to do, only given an opportunity. So uh
You said it
yeah,
beautifully. There you go. Use that every day. Use that every day. And, before you know it, you won't only change, how you feel about the term, but you will also start inspiring other people.
uh,
Yeah.
baby steps. I will try to
Baby steps.
uh
It always starts with a baby step.
yeah. But to bring our focus back to our guidelines, which is
Mhm.
we're planning to uh, launch it on World Refugee Day.
Mhm.
Do you have any, like, because you have experience working with higher educations and like you have experience like colleges, you are an educator yourself at a uh, you're a professor, so like
Mhm.
there's a lot like we can take away from you. So do you have any recommendations or like any input on like what we can include in this guideline to help refugee kids transition to higher education more smoothly?
Okay. Yes, I will just verbalize what I've actually written in my article and also in chapter 5 of my dissertation, implications of, what we can do, not just at the education level, but also the policy level, community level, individual level too, like we just talked about. I have to go back to what you asked, which in a way I feel that it definitely had to do with this entire conversation or interview, if you will, is how do I become a leader? How do I become a role model? How do I start believing in myself? And I feel that is very important. It has to start from the individuals also. If we don't feel comfortable in our own skin or who we are, no matter what support you get from top down will make you want to succeed or pursue. So I feel that while it is important to advise, whether it is the upper administration, if we really want to talk about colleges, what they could do to support refugee students, we also have to start with grassroots, and that is the refugees themselves. We need leaders just like you and I who will, support and propel other refugees to start believing in themselves and, using that resilience and hope to, believe in themselves, that they can in fact succeed. And so there is so much that you can do when it comes to universities, and what we can do to invite universities to support refugees. What I have seen in the past, I can talk about those things. Example, promoting the ability for refugee students to become part in certain events, in a way to promote what refugees are, whether it is to have an event as a university, let's get together and learn more about our student population, for example, World Refugee Month, or Refugee Day, which, we could do something along those lines at the university. It doesn't have to be on a World Refugee Day, which is in June, when a lot of the classes are out. So what we can do is take that idea and bring it at the university level at any time. For example, we have, it's called TRIO. So it's students that are first generation students at a university that can apply for scholarships, etc. A lot of refugees fit that role. I mean, a lot of refugees are first generation college students. Not everybody, but most of them are. And so, talking to those or departments within the university and letting them know, hey, could we somehow reach out to students who are also refugees in a way. What makes it very hard for university to distinguish who a refugee is and who isn't, it has to do with, once a student becomes an American citizen, a lot of individuals like to go by their current nationality, which is I'm an American citizen. So it becomes very hard for universities to distinguish who are refugee students and who are not. And so how do you target this particular student population? But what has happened, so for example, for me, what's been the most successful is having a student-led organization. And students are usually the best at figuring out who refugee students are on campus. And then, pretty much what I'm trying to say is word of mouth, letting students know, for example, like, hey, there is a student organization that can help you with ABC, stuff like that. Also, what I am a huge advocate for is having professional development for faculty and staff about refugee students or about the student population that are within a particular university. And it's usually what I would strongly suggest is to bring cultural brokers or leaders within the community. For example, former refugees who consider themselves leaders within the community to come and actually talk at the university, to come and provide professional development to faculty and staff, because we have lived the experience and we are the experts. So what I've always encouraged, and I will say this again, is refugees need to be invited to the table and be at the table when it comes to discussions about refugee matters and refugee topics. Most of the time, we are not. And so I'm a huge advocate for refugees as cultural brokers being a part of the conversation and sitting around the table when it comes to making decisions and policies.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like I am giving a little not TED talk, but like a talk to like elementary students. They're reading a book called Scattered Stars. It's a book about, sorry, I don't remember the title, but it's a book about refugee brothers, and like they're reading that book, and organization that I'm familiar with, they reached out to me saying like, hey, is it possible for you to like share your experience with these kids so they can like have a real, like they're reading a book, but it's different, like having like someone who's actually gone through them, like tell about their experience. So I agree with what you said. Like, I think when more people knows about it, more people are aware about it, they're like more able to do, like they're able to do more things for it. So
Yes.
it does, it's just within university, it could be difficult. So you said like create a student-led organization with refugees, right? Where like you support each other and be each other's role model. How do you like, like it's very hard to distinguish who's refugee and who's not. So like when you're creating this kind of organizations,
Mhm.
how do you like um, organize, or like how do you
Yes.
bring about like students who identify as one?
Great question. And to be honest with you, that was definitely something that was a little difficult. However, I created it based on it was a need-based alliance that I created because I already had so many individuals come to me just because word of mouth. Somebody said, "Oh, Belma, yeah, she is, she's a refugee too," or she came as a refugee, and she can help you because she's been at this university for a while. She may have knowledge. So I have had individuals. I mean, whether it was, first year, I mean, was it freshmen, all the way to, seniors, to coming to me asking different things. And so based on these individuals coming to me to either voice their frustration or asking for support or asking for, how do you do this? That I felt that there was a need, there was a gap, there's something that is obviously not being fulfilled at the university level. And it was this idea of saying, hey, look, I've had this experience, I had these same questions that these individuals are coming to me to ask now. I want to create something that is that has a foundation where people can come and gather, whether it's just whether it is just to vent or have a conversation, or we also had a weekly coffee and cookies roundtable where we sat and talked about, and it was open to individuals to just stop by between classes, and they would come and I've had so many students come and say, okay, this is what I'm working on, I want to apply for scholarships, or individuals who just were writing a paper and they needed inspiration. And so it went from really nailing down things that refugee students had a question about or a need that needed to be met, to individuals just coming and talking. It was also like, it was like a community where people just gathered. And so this is how I did it, because I already knew that there was a need. And of course, once I started the student organization, I had let the individuals know about it, who also told their friends, and the friends told their friends. So again, the ripple effect of having an impact. So this is how I have created I can only speak from my personal experience, having created a student-led organization at the university level. It could be hard, especially if you're not connected with other individuals, other refugee students. It could be hard because, yes, how will they find out? And what you could do is you can connect with different departments, whether it's the multicultural department, the department of, they've now changed the term so many times, but inclusiveness, equity, that department, even the international student department. I mean, a lot of them are willing to support different student populations. So, just getting the word out there is what I believe would help, because word does get around.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, seeing that perspective, I don't, since I'm still like adjusting to college, especially from home, like it will be difficult to like create actions from campus. Like, so I will keep those in mind. And if I
Yes.
do like notice that there's a community that do need like a certain help or need, then I would
Mhm.
like start small and like build its way up. So, but like that was really helpful. Like just
Absolutely.
as a college student who needed to hear that, that was
Yes.
really helpful. So thank
Yeah,
you so
and there
much.
is support out there. There is support out there. And there were times where I felt the same. I'm like, am I the only one? Like, are people not understanding? But there is definitely support out there, from faculty, students, staff. And yes, being online now, being remote, with, the current pandemic and the situation, it doesn't necessarily make things more difficult. We just have to look at things from a different perspective. It's a time to be, it's time to, take things from a different perspective. But is the need going away? Absolutely not. In fact, I'm sure that there is a higher need. I just being on a different call a few days ago, we talked about refugees and the COVID pandemic. I am hearing from community leaders who are expressing that there is so much need out there right now. Not necessarily, we didn't specifically talk about students, but the refugee community itself, that there is so much need out there. Whether it is unemployment, or what have you. So the need is out there. If not, the need is greater.
Yeah. Well, we can talk on and on about this topic, but I do want to be respectful of your time. And I did say like the interview will take up to like 30 to 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. So is there anything else that you would like to share that could be helpful to the work we're doing with like creating guidelines, or any takeaway from me? Like, feel free.
Yes. Well, I want to already say that you are a leader and you are already a role model, whether you are realizing it or not. So I want you to believe in yourself and to believe in your work and know that you are making a difference out there. And I am always here for you. Whenever you either, just for the sake of chatting, or if you have a specific question, I'd be happy to support you. Again, I have not done this by myself. I had wonderful people who helped me along the way, and I want to pay it forward. And so my what I would like to say again is, with your initiative or the program that you're doing, if we can have as many refugee voices as we can, because that does bring a unique and personal touch, because it is a lived experience. We are speaking from our lived experiences. So having refugee leadership anywhere is important, and I always like to stress that, whether it is from the community members, what have you.
This is why like we're reaching out to a lot of organizations that supports refugees, and like seeing like their perspective, and like maybe our plan is also to get like the recipients of the organizations to give like a voice, so we have like a firsthand experience person sharing, because it is a lot, like different refugees have different experience, and like they're all not the same. Mm-hmm. So I do agree, like having more voices will make it more like inclusive and
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I'm extremely excited to share what I do, and sometimes it feels like I'm working on things behind the lines, in my own little office, but it always makes my heart smile when I get to share and meet new people and be a part of some amazing initiatives. So thank you, Jane, and thank you, Anisha.